All right, let's talk about a massive, and I mean massive, under-the-radar revolution that's happening right now. We're in late 2025, and artificial intelligence is completely rewiring one of the world's oldest and frankly most essential industries, mining.
So let me ask you a question. When you hear the word mining, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably something dusty, dirty, maybe deep underground, right? Well, let's just go ahead and challenge that image. Because the reality today looks a lot more like this, a high-tech nerve center. Seriously, we're talking about data scientists and fleet managers operating these huge robotic machines from hundreds of miles away. It's clean, it's digital, and it's all happening at an absolutely incredible scale.
So, you have to ask, why now? What was it about the third quarter of 2025 that became the moment this whole digital transformation went from being a cool experiment to an absolute necessity?
Well, it really boils down to these two massive pressures closing in at the same time. On one hand, you've got just intense economic urgency. Costs are going up, markets are all over the place, and companies simply have to find new efficiencies just to stay afloat. And on the other hand, you have these really strict environmental and social governance rules, ESG mandates. These are no longer optional. You play by these rules or you don't get funding and you don't get to operate, period.
And when you put those two forces together, bam! It just pushed the entire industry past a critical tipping point. The debate is completely over. Now the race is on. Everybody is scrambling to figure out how fast they can plug these intelligence systems into the very core of their strategy. So let's see how this is actually playing out, starting at the very first stage of mining, exploration. This is where AI is having its own new kind of gold rush by, literally finding new gold and copper and lithium. In July of 2025, this number sent an absolute shockwave through the whole sector, $44 million. That was a huge funding round for just one AI exploration company, and it was a signal that the game of finding resources had fundamentally changed.
And what's really fascinating here is who was writing the checks. I mean, sure, he had major climate and tech investors like Breakthrough Energy, but the real story here? The strategic partners, BHP and Rio Tinto. We're talking about two of the biggest mining companies on the planet. They didn't just invest, they signed on as customers and collaborators. That's a massive vote of confidence.
So, what's their secret sauce? What do they do that's so special? Well, Geologic AI uses this incredible suite of sensors to scan rock samples right there at the drill site. It creates a super detailed digital twin of the geology, which their AI can then analyze in a few hours. Think about the old way. You ship samples to a lab and you wait for months. This tech just collapses that entire timeline into a single day.
And believe me, this isn't some small-scale test run. That investment is being used to fund a global rollout to find the exact minerals we desperately need for batteries, for all our electronics, and for the AI economy itself. It's basically a targeted AI-driven treasure hunt on a global scale.
Okay, so AI is getting way better at finding the deposits. But what about actually getting them out of the ground? Let's move from the brain of the operation to the body, the physical mine site, which, as you'll see, is quickly becoming autonomous.
The growth here is, well, it's just explosive. In only 1 year, the global fleet of autonomous haul trucks, and these things are monsters, like 2-story tall trucks that drive themselves, jumped by 84%. We're not talking about a handful of trucks, we're talking about thousands of these robots operating 24/7.
And if you look at the data, you see a major geopolitical shift happening. For years, Australia was the undisputed king of mine automation. But in just the last year, China has completely surged past them. They're now operating more than double the number of autonomous trucks. It's a huge change.
And it's not just the big haul trucks anymore. This automation wave is moving into the most difficult, the most dangerous jobs out there. We now have self-driving drills that can work in tight spaces, swarms of drones that map a tunnel and check for toxic gas, and unmanned ground vehicles that can go in and survey a collapsed area without putting a single human life at risk.
Okay, now we get to what I think is the most surprising part of this whole story. We've seen how AI is transforming mining, but what if I told you that mining is now absolutely essential for the AI revolution to even exist? There's this incredible feedback loop happening.
It all starts here. The crazy exponential growth of AI services, things like the new GPT-5 models, has created this unprecedented worldwide demand for thousands of massive new data centers. And these data centers, they are hungry.
They have an almost unbelievable appetite for two things: a constant, massive supply of electricity to run all those servers, and just enormous amounts of copper for all the wiring and the components.
So who's providing all that power? Well, this is one of the big reasons that industrial giant Caterpillar saw its stock hit an all-time high in September 2025. Investors suddenly realized its lesser-known division, the one that makes power generation turbines, is now absolutely critical for powering this whole AI boom.
And here is where the loop closes so perfectly. That huge demand for data centers creates a huge demand for copper. And what equipment do you think is used to mine that copper? You guessed it, the very same company's autonomous trucks. AI's growth is literally fueling demand for both Caterpillar's energy products and its mining products. It's a perfect circle.
So, the takeaway here is crucial. Mining has completely transformed. It's no longer just a user of technology, it's become a foundational pillar that supplies the raw materials and the industrial power that make our entire digital economy possible.
Now, this technological leap is bringing incredible gains in efficiency and safety, for sure, but it's also creating some profound new questions and challenges for the very people who have built their lives and their communities around this industry.
The workforce is just going through a seismic shift. Those traditional, on-site, manual jobs, like being a haul truck driver, they're in decline. And in their place, a whole new class of skilled, remote jobs is emerging. We're talking about people who manage fleets of robots, who analyze all this new data, who engineer the complex systems that make a self-driving mine actually run.
And all of this creates a whole new set of critical risks. I mean, how do you retrain an entire generation of workers for these brand new roles? How do you protect a fully connected, autonomous mine from a potentially catastrophic cyber attack? And how on earth do you deal with decades of messy, old data? These are now the biggest challenges facing the industry.
Because ultimately, the next chapter of this incredible transformation doesn't really hinge on the machines anymore. The AI is here, the robots are working, it all hinges on us, on our ability to adapt, to learn, and to figure out how to build a future where humans and these incredible machines can actually thrive together.